In the dead of night, a whispering wind carried secrets across the village of Uzoigwe. Beneath the moon's silver glow, Adamma stood at the edge of the forest, cradling a child in her arms, her forbidden child. The villagers never knew of the child's existence, for Adamma had kept her from prying eyes. Born under a blood moon, the child was the product of a union not meant for mortal realms. The air around Adamma grew tense as the child uttered a soft cry. She knew the village could never see the truth. Their narrow minds would never understand the power that coursed through her daughter's veins. The revelation of the child's origins would spark more than gossip. It would incite fear and chaos, a price Adamma was unwilling to pay just yet. Adamma had not always been a mysterious figure in Uzoigwe. Once she had been loved and cherished by her people, but that was before she met the spirit who changed her life forever. The spirit was neither man nor beast, but something between, a being of immense power who visited Adamma at night. Their forbidden union had broken all sacred laws, but the connection was undeniable, and from that connection came a child. Adamma's heart was torn between protecting the life she had brought into the world and keeping her ties to her people. She knew the consequences of revealing the truth, but could not bear to live without her daughter. Adamma sat alone in her hut, the weight of her secret pressing down on her chest. Her daughter slept peacefully beside her, unaware of the danger that loomed. Adamma's mind raced with thoughts of what could happen if the villagers discovered the truth. She could see it now, how they would take her child, brand her a witch, and cast them both out into the wilderness. But what could she do? She couldn't keep her daughter hidden forever. The child deserved a life beyond the shadows, but the price of revealing her existence could be catastrophic. One night, as Adamma sat by the fire, a familiar presence filled the air. The spirit who had fathered her child appeared before her, his glowing eyes full of longing and regret. He warned her of the coming storm, telling her that the village was on the brink of discovering their secret. Adamma felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the danger had escalated. The spirit offered to take the child to safety, but Adamma refused. She couldn't bear to be separated from her daughter again. But the spirit's warning lingered in her mind. If she didn't act soon, they would all pay a heavy price. As days passed, strange occurrences began to unfold in the village. Livestock went missing, crops withered, and illnesses spread like wildfire. The villagers grew restless, searching for something or someone to blame. The elders consulted the oracle, who warned that a great evil had taken root. Fear gripped the people, and their suspicion of Adamma deepened. They began to avoid her, and their once friendly faces turned cold and distant. Adamma knew that it was only a matter of time before they came for her, and she needed to be prepared. The elders of Uzoigwe gathered secretly to discuss the growing unrest in the village. The signs of trouble were too many to ignore, and the oracle's words had struck fear into their hearts. They agreed that action needed to be taken, and all fingers pointed to Adamma. Once a beloved member of their community, she was now seen as a potential threat. The council decided to confront her and demand answers. If she could not provide a satisfactory explanation, they would have no choice but to exile her and her child. The morning sun barely rose when a group of villagers arrived at Adamma's hut. Led by the village chief, They demanded to know the truth about her mysterious absences and the strange occurrences plaguing the village. Adamma stood tall, her heart racing as she faced the angry mob. She could feel their fear and hatred burning into her skin, but she refused to let them intimidate her. With a calm voice, she denied their accusations, insisting that she had done nothing wrong. But the chief was unconvinced, and he gave her an ultimatum: reveal the truth or leave the village forever. Adamma's heart ached as she considered the chief's ultimatum. She knew that revealing the truth would only bring more harm to her and her daughter. But leaving the village meant abandoning the only home they had ever known. She couldn't bear the thought of raising her child in isolation, away from the people and traditions that had shaped her life. With a heavy heart, Adamma made a desperate choice. She would flee the village under the cover of night, taking her daughter to a place where they could be safe from the judgment and fear of others. That night, with the village fast asleep, Adamma gathered her belongings and prepared to leave. She wrapped her daughter in a warm blanket and kissed her forehead, whispering a prayer for protection. As she stepped out into the darkness, she felt a pang of sadness in her chest. This was the only home she had ever known, and now she was leaving it all behind. But she knew there was no other choice. The forest would be their sanctuary, a place where they could live in peace, away from the prying eyes of the villagers. The forest was a place of mystery and magic, where spirits and mortals often crossed paths. As Adamma and her daughter made their way deeper into the woods, they could feel unseen beings watching them. The trees whispered ancient secrets, and the air was thick with the scent of moss and earth. Adamma felt a sense of peace wash over her as they settled into their new home. But she knew that the forest held its own dangers, and they would need to be cautious if they were to survive. Life in the forest was not easy, but it offered Adamma and her daughter the freedom they had longed for. They built a small hut near a river where they could live in peace. But the price of that freedom was steep. Adamma missed the warmth and companionship of the village, the laughter of children, and the sound of the drums during the festivals. She knew that her daughter deserved more than a life of solitude, but she also knew that returning to the village was no longer an option. As the years passed, Adamma's daughter began to show signs of her extraordinary heritage. She could communicate with the spirits of the forest, and her powers grew stronger with each passing day. Adamma watched in awe as her daughter embraced her gifts, but also felt a pang of fear. The child was becoming more powerful than she could have ever imagined, and Adamma knew that such power could not go unnoticed for long. The forest spirits had already begun to take an interest in the girl, and Adamma feared what might happen if they decided to claim her. One evening, as Adamma and her daughter sat by the fire, a group of forest spirits appeared before them. The spirits were not pleased with the presence of a mortal child in their domain, especially one with such extraordinary powers. They demanded that the girl be returned to the spirit world, where she belonged. Adamma's heart raced as she realized the gravity of the situation. She could not let the spirits take her daughter, but she also knew that defying them could have dire consequences. Faced with the spirits' ultimatum, Adamma made a heart-wrenching decision. She offered herself in place of her daughter, willing to sacrifice her own life to protect the child. The spirits, moved by her devotion, agreed to spare the girl, but took Adamma away to the spirit world. As she disappeared into the mist, Adamma whispered a final blessing to her daughter, Vala Mogulis. All men must die. All men must serve, hoping that she would grow up strong and free, far from the dangers of the mortal world. Left alone in the forest, Adamma's daughter struggled to accept her mother's sacrifice. The once lively forest now felt empty and cold, and the weight of her powers became a burden she could no longer bear. The spirits watched her from the shadows, whispering words of temptation and danger. But the girl was determined to honor her mother's legacy. She vowed to use her powers for good, even as she struggled with the loneliness that had become her constant companion. Years had passed since Adamma and her daughter had fled the village, but the memories of their former home still lingered in the girl's mind. One day she returned to Uzoigwe, hoping to find answers to the questions that had haunted her for so long. She arrived in the village as a stranger, her face hidden beneath a hood, but the villagers soon recognized her as Adamma's daughter, and they were both awed and terrified by her presence. They whispered that she had come to seek revenge for the way they had treated her mother. The village chief, now an old man, was overcome with guilt when he saw Adamma's daughter. He had never forgotten the day he had driven her and her mother out of the village, and he feared that the child had returned to exact vengeance. He begged for her forgiveness, offering her anything she desired in exchange for sparing the village. But the girl did not come for revenge. She had come to understand her past and find peace. As Adamma's daughter spoke with the village elders, the truth about her mother's forbidden union finally came to light. The spirit who had fathered her was none other than the guardian of the forest, a being of immense power who had protected the village for generations. The villagers had feared what they did not understand, but now they realized that Adamma's child was not a curse, but a blessing. The girl's powers were a gift from the guardian, meant to protect the village and its people. A guardian spirit appeared, confirming Adamma's origins and blessing the village with prosperity. The villagers vowed to protect her legacy and learn from past mistakes. Adamma's daughter embarked on a journey to the spirit world, a path illuminated by the guidance of the forest spirits. There, she unearthed her true powers and her destined role in the world.